Welcome back, focused learners. Today, we have a truly fascinating explainer lined up for you. We're going to pull back the curtain and look at the hidden engines that allow scrappy, upstart companies to just completely dethrone massive, established industry giants. We're talking about the massive shift from rigid, traditional products to incredibly dynamic ecosystems and the invisible, unstoppable momentum of flywheels. Okay, let's dive right in. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. The fall of linear giants. 2. Apple's ecosystem masterclass. 3. Airbnb's dynamic supply shock. 4. Flywheels versus network effects. And finally, 5. The future, AI flywheels. So let's start with a crucial question to really anchor our thinking today. What do Apple and Airbnb actually have in common? Seriously, think about it. How did a computer company and a scrappy couch surfing app manage to take down massive, entrenched empires in completely different industries? Well, the answer doesn't just lie in the products they sell, but in the hidden mechanics of exactly how they operate. Section 1. The fall of linear giants, hardware versus software. I want you to think back to the mid-2000s. Nokia was the absolute gold standard, right? They were manufacturing those indestructible brick phones we literally all remember having. Their whole focus was on physical hardware and making these tiny incremental tweaks. But then, Apple entered the scene playing a completely different game. They brought a software ecosystem, a totally radical customer experience, and platform partnerships. Nokia was obsessed with building a rigid physical product, while Apple, they were building a dynamic product service ecosystem. This was the ultimate David versus Goliath setup. In 2007, Nokia commanded a staggering 65.6% of the global market, and Apple, they had sold exactly 0 phones. 0. Yet, as we all know, within just a handful of years, Apple would go on to capture the lion's share of global handset profits, and Nokia's entire mobile division would eventually be sold off. It's wild. Section 2. Apple's Ecosystem Masterclass, the shift to platforms. So Apple didn't just build a better phone, they built a platform. They created a space where external partners could make money right alongside them. The crushing reality of this shift was captured perfectly in a famous 2011 memo by Nokia's own CEO at the time, Stephen Elope. He had this dramatic sinking realization stating, "Our competitors aren't taking our market share with devices. They are taking our market share with an entire ecosystem. Better standalone products were literally losing to better ecosystems." And to really grasp the sheer scale of that ecosystem, just consider this number: 575 million. By June 2013, Apple had 575 million iTunes accounts. But here's the real kicker. They had direct credit card billing relationships with those 575 million people. That represents a staggering, almost unbelievable level of ecosystem lock-in. It meant perfectly frictionless purchases for apps, music, and services. It drove this immense recurring value that a pure hardware manufacturer like Nokia simply had no way of matching. Section 3. Airbnb's dynamic supply shock, disrupting rigid pipelines. Okay, let's pivot from digital devices over to physical real estate. We're looking at Boston in November 2015. Traditional Boston hotels actually saw their supply growth drop by 3.2%. Why? Because building a hotel takes massive capital and years of planning. It's a very rigid pipeline. But Airbnb, in that same period, their supply exploded by an astonishing 155.3%, effortlessly meeting a massive demand growth of 86.4%. Airbnb just completely bypassed the rigid, slow limitations of traditional supply by tapping directly into flexible residential networks. For Airbnb's CEO Brian Chesky, the human element was the secret sauce. The genius of Airbnb was realizing that the supply was actually already built. It was literally just people's homes. By matching this decentralized, flexible supply with traveling guests, they didn't just compete with the hospitality industry, they sent a dynamic shockwave right through it. Just to underscore the staggering, unbelievable scale of this dynamic model, on a single New Year's Eve, Airbnb hosted over 2 million guests. 2 million. Think about the pure logistics, the time, and the billions of dollars it would take for a traditional hotel chain to construct enough rooms to house 2 million people all at the exact same time. It's impossible. But Airbnb achieved it through a frictionless, self-reinforcing network. Section 4. Flywheels versus network effects, the hidden mechanics. So, drawing on the analysis of tech strategy expert Jeffrey Towson, we really need a clear definition here. What is a flywheel? Well, a flywheel is a self reinforcing loop in a business's operating model. Basically, it's an operational mechanism where two or more activities interact to build momentum and continuous improvement with every single turn of the wheel. It is all about driving sustainable, frictionless growth, where the system essentially just feeds itself. Now, people mix these two terms up all the time, but the distinction is absolutely critical. Flywheels are all about operational momentum and internal execution. They can actually work really effectively even at a smaller local scale. Network effects, on the other hand, are a structural advantage that is inherent to the product itself. With a network effect, the value of the service directly increases precisely because of massive user scale. Think of a telephone network, right? It's completely useless if we're the only person on Earth who owns a phone. Let's walk through exactly how a developer or a limited ecosystem flywheel actually cycles to create this kind of unstoppable momentum. Step 1. A company creates compelling core activities or a great product. Step 2. That great product naturally attracts more users. Step 3. A larger user base becomes super attractive to developers who then jump in and create better data and apps. And finally, step 4, this massive influx of apps creates way more value for the users, which takes us right back to step 1, but now with way more momentum. Apple's iOS ecosystem is literally the textbook example of this loop in action. Section 5. The future, AI flywheels.
All right, so looking ahead, the big question is, can we take these self-reinforcing loops and apply them to artificial intelligence? Well, Baidu is currently attempting to build exactly that, a modern AI moat. Their strategy involves developing highly specific industry knowledge graphs, feeding massive amounts of unstructured industrial data into their models, and then running constant knowledge enhancement activities. And all of this is driven by real-world industrial-level application loops. They are specifically targeting incredibly complex fields, like manufacturing, to build out this compounding intelligence. And this poses a massive critical unknown for the entire future of tech strategy. Can you actually create an operating system where the model's intelligence and efficiency just naturally increase simply through industry application and everyday usage? Will Baidu's AI loop just be a temporary operational boost to their bottom line? Or is this going to evolve into a massive new structural network effect where the absolute smartest AI just inevitably takes all the market share? So bringing it all together, the crucial point we are left with today is this. The business landscape has totally shifted. We've gone from linear products to software ecosystems, and now we are hurtling toward self-learning AI loops. As you look at your own industry and your own projects, you really have to ask yourself, will your business build the flywheel, or will it be crushed by one? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. Keep learning, keep analyzing, and I will see you next time.